Isaac, welcome back to Queen's Park Rangers. How does it feel to be back at the club?
Yeah, fantastic. It was special to get the conversation with Christian and the head coach in terms of them wanting me back at the club. And I said, since I've become a free agent, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I think if I was going to stay in the Championship, which I had a few options to go abroad, it was one of those where if I was going to stay in the Championship, it was only going to be one club, and I'm just glad that I'm going to get it finally done.
Just tell us about why that is. You only spent 4 months with us at the end of the 23-24 season. It was obviously a very successful one in terms of the club stayed up, in terms of your impact and involvement, the relationship that you built with the fans. And ever since you've left, you've always spoke only in positive terms. Yeah. What was it that was so special about that 4-month period?
I think the camaraderie within the group, obviously I know the group's changed a bit since I was here last, but the core group of players are still here. Funnily enough, I saw Cookie on holiday in the summer.
Was he getting into you?
Yeah, so I've always kept in contact with the lads from before, and last year when I was at Portsmouth on loan, it was quite difficult to play against the guys. I felt like I was lining up on the wrong team, but it was one of those where it was a special 4 months that I had at the club, and you get a feeling sometimes of a place when you go somewhere and you think that place is kind of like home, and it was just one of those situations where for me it was a no-brainer to come back. And as I said, the group's a really young group. I'll probably be one of the oldest players now, which is mad to think of, but it was one of those where I feel like I can add a lot of value, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well, and help drive the group forward.
You speak about this feeling like home. What part have the fans played in you feeling like that?
Yeah, massive. I mean, it's whenever you've got a fan group like QPR's is, passionate, amazing support home and away, and when they're especially took to me so well last time, that's always a massive help when you want to join a football club. And I said I think that it's important now that everyone's together, everyone's got that unity, that spirit, because I said the Championship's a long season. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, at the weekend wasn't the greatest result, but I still, you look at the group and I feel like there's a lot more that this group can give.
What do you think of the group, the squad? What's your verdict on it?
Yeah, I said it's a bit different to when I was here. I think speaking to the ownership group about it. Obviously when I was here, the average age of the squad was quite high. I think it was one of the highest in the Championship at the time. And obviously now the squad's a lot younger, the average age is a lot younger. But with that, as well as obviously the amount of ability that they've got in this young group, there isn't a massive amount of experience. So obviously that's something that I'm hoping to bring and hoping to give to the group. But I think overall the group's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability, a lot of really good young, exciting attacking talent especially, but I just think it's one of those where I think if the more experienced players can help bed them in and help get them used to the league, because a lot of them have come up from League One, I think that there's great ability within the group and we can have a great season.
You mentioned that experience that you'll be bringing to the dressing room, and just thinking back to your younger days in your career, how beneficial is it to have that experience within the group?
Yeah, it's vital. I think back to when I was coming through and I was sort of 2021, I went on my first loan to Hull, and I had Jake Livermore, I had Tom Huddleston that were in my position, that I was trying to get in the team ahead of, but it was just vital experiences, and to play alongside them always helped me. And I think it was even similar to last year, when I was on loan at Portsmouth, we had Freddie Potts, who was on loan from West Ham, who was 21, and obviously I was 30. I was thinking this is roles reversed, but he had that sort of spell where he was a real top talent. You could see that he had the ability, and obviously he had the experienced lads around him, myself, Matt Ritchie, and I said he's gone on and obviously made his Premier League debut the other night against Chelsea, which obviously wasn't a great result for them, but it was just amazing to see young lads that you've helped on their way, even if it is 0.5%, 1%, to go on and do great things. So I said for me that's a massive part of me going forwards now, obviously being an older player. The more younger players you can get and see do well, that gives me great satisfaction.
But on the flip side, you're still only 30, and when you go to 30, people suddenly think that it's old in football. It's changed over the years, but there's also a lot of football ahead of you on the pitch.
So much. I mean, this year especially for me is a big one. I've got the situation with Jamaica now, which is really poignant. We've got the potential for a World Cup at the end of the season. 6 massive games to try and qualify. But obviously for me to play for them, I need to be playing football. I need to be playing football at a good level. So as I said, for me, I want to try and play as much as possible. As I said, everyone, like you say, always thinks, you hit the big 3-0 and it's, downhill from there. But I do feel like I've got so much more in me. I feel like it's almost, especially the last couple of years, I have got decent amount of football in me. Probably not as much as I wanted to, obviously last year with what happened, but I do feel like there's so much more in me and so much more motivation to play and to achieve great things. And, as I said, I was speaking to the head coach. It's one of those where I wouldn't have joined if I didn't think that the club was pushing in the right direction and pushing to achieve great things, not just to stay in the division.
And last season, during the second half of last season, you obviously joined Portsmouth, played 17 times in the Championship for them. It's certainly a division you've got to know well.
Yeah.
And looking forward, what's got to be the target for QPR for this group?
I think it's certainly got to be more than what it was last year. I remember last year looking at the table and it was, there was a spell where the team was doing really, really well and it was almost thinking, oh, could you maybe make a playoff push? But then obviously tailed off towards the back end of the season. But I feel like within the group, I think there's a good mix. As I said, great young players, got great ability, and then I think there is a good core group of experienced players within the dressing room as well. Obviously, not the best start, but sometimes that can happen when you're transitioning. It's been a new regime, so that can take time. But I just think it's got to be better than last year. We've got to be aspiring to getting into the top half of the table and kicking on. And as I said, it's probably going to be a bit more of a difficult division this year because of the amount of money that Wrexham and Birmingham have spent from League One. That's probably an anomaly, really. It's not really normal. And then obviously you've got the 3 teams coming down from the Premier League are always going to be quite strong. But I don't see why we shouldn't be looking up and pushing up towards the top half of the table and looking to the playoffs because, as I said, apart from maybe 1 or 2 teams that you think realistically should be going up, it's quite wide open.
And in terms of you, where are you at in terms of your fitness? Obviously, you left Newcastle recently. Yeah. Where are you at? Yeah,
as I said, for me, it's one of those where it might take me a few games to get up to speed, but I've been doing a lot of training by myself with a couple of coaches, with a small group of other players in the same sort of scenario as me. So for me, it's just a matter of getting in with the lads again, get training, and as I said, whenever the head coach thinks I'm ready, then I'm ready.
And very finally, what's your message for the QPR fans who I'm fairly sure have been hitting your socials pretty hard in recent weeks and beyond?
No, just thank you so much for the support. It means the world to me to feel wanted and to feel valued. And as I said, I think they know that what they're going to get from me, 110%, giving everything for the shirt, on and off the pitch, helping the lads, helping the staff as much as possible. And as I said, together we can hopefully have a great season.